The #1 Gibby in all of Apex is insane. He might be one of the most skilled players I've ever seen. He has 155,000 kills on Gibraltar and makes 1v3 look ridiculously easy. Today, he's here to share with you his gameplay, stats, super interesting settings, give you his biggest tips and tricks for Gibby, and in general, just teach you how to play him, which is super important because Gibby just got one of the biggest buffs ever in Apex.
Y'all, I so red I can't see what's real. Roll me up a blunt.
The #1 Gibby in the world is Chet. He has 155,000 kills on Gibraltar and is a multi-times pred, but not a pred like most people. While he has many pred badges, he doesn't get them like, well, most people. First off, he basically only solo queues to pred, but that's not enough, so he makes it harder. For example, he recently solo queued to pred with only the first weapon he found every game. He's an absolutely amazing content creator, from his YouTube to his stream to just everything, and he's super chill and super nice. So definitely go chuck him a follow on all his socials. But now, let's talk to him about Gibby. Well, simple first question for Gibby, just his perks. What do you think are the best perks to choose, and why do you choose them? Do you always choose those, or are there times where you can choose the other ones as well?
I always pick the shotgun perk, and I've been an SMG guy for a long time. I got 60,000 kills on SMGs on Gibby, but the current state of the Mastiff is like, you need to use it. It's so strong that if anybody else is running a Mastiff and you have a Volt or anything else, you're gonna get walked over. So you gotta run the extremely overpowered shotgun perk. You move at full speed. You can bubble fight really easily with any shotgun, even a EVA 8. Any shotgun, you can just walk over people. If you do run SMGs, I still don't think that the other perk, the bigger ultimate boom, I don't think that that's that good. The way that I use my ult is more of like an area denial. So the more explosions doesn't really help me as much as it should. So I stick with the shotgun one. And then when it comes to baby bubble versus bubble bunker, I always go bubble bunker. And that's because if you are constantly switching from normal size bubble to baby bubble, you need to like relearn the size difference. It's like messing with your muscle memory, whether it's early game or late game. You have to be constantly aware of the size of the bubble you're throwing out. And if I throw a bubble and I'm expecting it to cut off X amount of a room, but it's actually the baby bubble, so it doesn't cut off that much, and I get exposed, I'm like hanging myself out to dry. Whereas the bubble bunker, it's always the same size bubble, you just sometimes can pop an extra shield battery, and that's a lot easier for a guy like me to remember.
Okay, well, what about playstyle wise with Gibby? Obviously, there's a lot of different ways you can play him, and it probably largely depends on the kind of player you are and the situations in game. But ultimately, what do you think is the best playstyle to play with Gibby?
Yeah, that's a good question. Gibby has a unique ability to play really passively or really aggressively. I usually just play off my teammates, and I think that's the way to do it. If your teammates are really fast, you gotta be really fast and aggressive with them. And if your teammates are slow and they wanna camp, you gotta camp with them. Because Gibby is like a force multiplier. Like, if he's present in the fight, you can win. So I'm kind of a switch hitter on that one. I'm versatile. I like to do both, whatever my teammates do. Like, I solo queue a lot, and I match their energy. It helps me stay alive more.
What do you think about the changes he got recently with basically just being a support legend? Do you think they were good changes overall to like the support class and Gibby as a whole, or do you reckon they were too much, not needed? What are your thoughts there?
Definitely too much. I think that when I was reading the patch notes, I was like, oh, the shotgun movement perk, he's like Mad Maggie now. Wow, that's really good. And then I saw he gets basically twice as many bubbles, and I was like, wow, I'm gonna have a 20 kill death ratio. And I was really excited, but with all the other support buffs, like healing twice as much with a shield cell, that's crazy at full speed. All of those buffs in a row, they make Gibby look completely overpowered. I think what it ended up doing is it makes Gibby one of the most offensive support legends now, because a bubble Mastiff is almost unbeatable if you're not missing. I fear that the support class itself is just too strong, and maybe Newcastle kind of outshines him as like the best support legend, because Newcastle can do that too with a mobile shield, and Newcastle's very, 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 very strong. If they didn't buff all support legends, Gibby would have been the best legend in the game, but I think that because it applies to all support legends, I gotta give that one to Newcastle being the best.
Yeah, I agree. I was actually going to ask, but if you had to rate Gibby compared to the other support legends, would you say he's probably second best? But quickly, before Chet, our number one Gibby answers that, then gives us his biggest tips and tricks on Gibby, which are amazing, tells us the best controller settings to have on Gibby, and so much more, let's have a look at his stats. Obviously, he has over 150,000 kills on Gibby. That's a lot of Gibby kills. He has 12,000 wins and 63,000 SMG kills. That's absurd. 34,000, almost 35,000 games in total. 14,000 wins, that's a really good win percentage. Almost 50 million damage, almost 200,000 kills in total, 1,400 ADR and a 9 KD. That's actually crazy. Highest ever kills is 31, longest win streak of 22. That's absurd. Then this season he obviously hasn't played as much and his stats are basically all from solo queuing ranked, but even when solo queuing ranked he still has a 1,500 ADR and a 6 KD. Crazy. But if you had to rate Gibby compared to the other support legends, would you say he's probably second best?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. If you're going for quick resets, like in 3v3s and pred rank lobbies, maybe Lifeline's gonna be better for that. But if you're just trying to shoot people, Gibby is the best for that. Like the Bubble Mastiff is the strongest support attack you can do.
Yeah, agreed. Well, if you had to rate Gibby on like a tier list, like from S down to D or whatever, where would you rate him overall compared to every other legend in the game?
If you can play around him, if you build a team around Gibby and the people that you're playing with support the Gibby, he's S tier. If Gibby needs to follow somebody else around and you're using him as the reviving legend, then he's probably more like A tier. But if you just use his strengths where he can bubble up and win a 1v1 and then you can collapse on the enemy as a 3v2, that's where he excels. That's S tier right there. If you don't need him to throw a defensive bubble and reset and res the guy that just got one mag, if you use him like that, he's not that viable, but compared to Newcastle or Lifeline. But if you just let him be a fragger and you let them push you and you counteract, you counterattack their push with a bubble and pop them for 90-90.
Okay, well, biggest tips and tricks for Gibby, just overall. They can be basic tips, big tips, small tips. What would your biggest, say, 3 or 4 tips be for Gibby?
Okay, you could get a pretty nice graphic for this one. If you play Gibby and you aim down your sights with iron sights or a 1x HCOG Classic, when you aim down your sights, you can see your arm shield blocking the entire bottom third of your screen. It's all your arm shield. But if you use the 1x Hollow, it zooms in at a different focal length and your arm shield is no longer on your screen. So you can see your entire screen if you use the Hollow versus the HCOG Classic. It's not going to be the first time anybody's ever heard it, but like every Gibby should know it. If you bubble and there's 3 guys in front of you aiming at your bubble, you should not peek out the very front of the bubble and let all 3 of them see you. You can really effectively poke out the either left side or right side. I prefer left side, the 9 o'clock position of the bubble. And you have the front half of the bubble is acting as cover for you, almost like a head glitch, where you can shoot the enemies and they have no cover, because assuming you're out in the open, you can shoot them, but you have your entire 2/3 of your body covered by the bubble. So it's very effective at fighting one guy out of 3 versus the front of the bubble where all 3 of them would shoot at you. That's how I win most of my 1v2s and 1v3s, is effective using my bubble as cover. Yeah, it covers a very significant part of your body, and you can shoot as long as the very tip of your gun. If 51% of your body is outside of that bubble, you can shoot. And because of the angle that it's going at that dome shape, it covers half your body or more. More advanced tip than the basics is when you bubble, sometimes you don't want to bubble too early. You need to cover more distance. If you bubble right when the first bullet's about to hit you, it's not always going to be an effective bubble. So what I'd like to do is, if I have a shield battery, I'll let the enemies almost break my shields and then bubble, so that way I can pop the battery and I'll be full health. I don't want to throw the bubble after they break my shields, because then I'm low health after the bat. And if I pop it too early, then the bat's wasted. So what I often do is I run with my bubble out, like I'll hold left bumper, and that way I can time the exact time to throw it at my feet or ahead of me, depending on where the enemies are shooting me from. I'll run with my bubble out so that as it deploys, I'm at the perfect amount of health to pop that battery, or 2 cells, depending on if I have shield cells or shield batteries. And that way I can cover the most distance possible.
And it kind of like forces them to push into you where you have the advantage because it's your bubble and you know how to bubble fight. I actually really like that. I mean, and it's so good, like you said, with cells now as well, because cells heal so much more as well.
Right. Yeah, 2 cells heals you from purple. That's really nice.
And I never thought about it,
Yeah.
but like in a bubble fight now, if you're like fighting in a bubble fight, like a 2v1, and you kill one and you're playing like back bubble, you can even now just pop a cell and you can like get that off so easily during a bubble fight where you didn't used to be able to.
Yeah, and what you can do to maximize your time in the bubble is that little strat I just said, where you kind of throw the bubble maybe behind you or directly in front of you. You can just run to the very front of the bubble, as if you were about to poke out the front, and it makes your enemies pushing you kind of hesitate, because they aimed on sights like you're about to walk out at them. They're ready to fry you, and if you just sit there and start popping a shield battery, you can just back up. You can just pop your shield battery while backing up to the back of your bubble, and you just save yourself a full maybe half second of them hesitating, or maybe you made them calm. He's healing or he's not healing, push him or don't push him. You kind of just confuse them a little bit, and with the new movement speed buff, you can get that bat off without them even being a risk of hurting you. Like if they're running at you and you start popping the battery, you get that bat off. You'll get it off. You just back up to the back end of the bubble. You have enough time, and you're fast enough to do it now.
Yeah, that's actually
It's
crazy.
huge.
What weapon-wise, what do you think are the best weapons for Gibby? Is it just shotguns?
I think to give credit to the Mastiff, Mastiff's #1. I'm not really that good with the Peacekeeper, I can't lie to you. I think that the Peacekeeper could be really good if you're good with it. But I think R301, any assault rifle is good, because you can trade damage. If you hit a guy for 60 and he hits you for 60, you might have just taken like 4 damage. But you hit that guy for 60. Your arm shield soaks all that up, and your fortified soaks up a little bit of the remainder. Like, you don't even have to heal, but that guy's gonna be popping a bat maybe, depending on his armor. Any medium to long range weapon, Gibby's gonna be really good with it because of that what I just said. You can be, I mean, let's be real, you can be good with any gun in a bubble fight as long as you're using it to its strengths. Like if you have a Volt, you don't wanna constantly peek at the same time as a guy with a Mastiff, like that you're gonna get rolled. You can use a Volt effectively with enough practice. So I'd say all the SMGs are in like the same SMG tier, and then the Mastiff is above that, and then everything else below.
Okay, interesting one here. Would you say that Gibby is one of the highest skill gap legends in the game? Because I always used to think he was probably the highest skill gap legend until Newcastle came into the game, and now got a bunch of changes as well. But would you say Gibby is like one of the highest skill gap legends?
Yeah, I think so. I play on console, and I play, I just play in my simple little Xbox pub lobbies, so I don't have a lot of experience fighting against like professional players or really, really good players. Like, I don't fight MNK warlords that zip around the map. But in my humble experiences, yeah, you're 100% right. He is a high skill gap legend.
Okay, well, actually, here's an interesting question. When bubble fighting, I know this is a big thing with Newcastle, and I was just talking to like the top Newcastle the other day. A big thing for him when he's fighting in his walls, which is kind of similar to bubble fighting to an extent, is he loves punching. He loves punching people to push them out of cover, gain space so he can peek them and gain control of it. What are your thoughts on punching in a bubble fight? Just to like, push them out of the cover and gain the control of it.
That's a great question. I had a friend tell me that back in like season 1, when right before Gibby got buffed, we discussed punching in a bubble fight, and that's when melee locked on. I was like, wow, that is very effective. It discombobulates them, it changes the orientation of their screen, and they can't turn quickly right away, and it moves them, it displaces them. It does all these good things that make you better in a bubble fight. But if you miss, you're trading, it's like a gamble. If you miss, they can shoot you for a free 60 to 100 damage while you're recovering from the melee. And a lot of times, it's not worth it. It's good for laughs, but I'd say it's not worth it because melee is so unpredictable now.
No, I agree with that. Back when like the lunge used to be stronger, used to be better, etc., it was like, very, very viable to do. But like you said, if you miss and you get pumped by a Mastiff, like the fight's almost just over right there.
Yeah. And that can be good. It can be really, really smart if you're willing to eat a Mastiff shot if you miss. I don't usually do it unless I feel like I need to, and I kind of run through a little checklist in my brain of when it's smart to melee versus 100%. It's a gamble, and sometimes it's the right thing to do, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, well, interesting question here. Counters for Gibby. What are the best counters for Gibby?
Oh, I know the right answer. I don't want to. Oh man. The best way to kill a Gibby is you shoot a Bangalore smoke at him, because Well, a Gibby bubble, you can see through it, but you can't shoot through it. So when you're sitting in your bubble, you're completely safe and you know where all the enemies are. And as they're pushing you, you can kind of run your little calculations on when you need to poke out. But with the Bangalore smoke, now they can't see you and they can't shoot you. So you can just run up freely and you, the Bangalore player or the Bangalore player's team, can just run up freely on the Gibby and they can't see you or shoot you. And then once you're up close next to them, as long as you're trading damage, they're gonna be looking the wrong way. They don't know where you're coming from. There's no footstep audio in a Gibby bubble, so they won't be able to hear you sneaking up behind them. They won't be able to hear you walking right in front of them. They can't see, can't hear, can't shoot. It just kind of completely cripples a Gibby's offensive bubble capabilities.
That's true. I never thought about that. That's a good way to put it, because it's just like all like the knowledge you have from a bubble, all the information you're gaining while in it is now just gone, and they can angle you out so easily. Other counters for Gibby, is it going to be like the likes of like Crypto and Mad Maggie, or what are your thoughts there?
See, you would think so, but actually in this recent patch, those don't break Gibby bubbles anymore.
Oh, true, they don't. Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of rolls them now. A Mad Maggie bubble, Mad Maggie ball, I can just laugh at it now.
It just bounces off and goes away.
Yeah. The drill definitely goes through a bubble and still hurts you for like 20 and 30. So that will limit a Gibby's like res capabilities. Because if you're resing at the front of a bubble and you get drilled, that'll still prevent them from healing to full health and it'll, cut you off a little bit. But aside from that, those guys don't scare me anymore.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and Crypto now, because it doesn't break the bubble, it doesn't really have any use against Gibby at all. It's actually, it's kind of funny. Crypto went from being not good to being like a meta legend in Apex to now being bad again in like the space of like a couple of months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I see a Crypto, I can just throw my bubble down and, maybe the EMP will come out and that's one shield cell for a guy like me. Like that, your entire ultimate equated to a shield cell.
Actually,
That's
funny
the value of Crypto these days.
Literally. Okay, well, what about like best legends to have with Gibby? So if you're playing Gibby, what are your ideal teammates?
I said this before this season's meta, but it's 100%, it's Newcastle. For me specifically, it's definitely Newcastle, and for most Gibbies, it should be Newcastle. Because like I said, Gibby is really good when he can do his own thing, when he can throw his bubble for himself, and he can use it offensively and hold off an enemy or two with a Mastiff. That's his strength. If you're using it to revive, you're kind of limiting your capabilities. But when you have a Newcastle on the team, you get basically 2 Gibby shields. Like, my bubble can be for offense, and the Newcastle wall can prevent anybody trying to stop him from rezzing. So when I'm playing with a Newcastle, I don't need to bubble for defensively or passively. The Newcastle can handle that. And if the Newcastle should burn his wall to advance somewhere, then I can bubble defensively. But because it's basically like having 2 Gibby bubbles, so it takes all the pressure off me. If one of my teammates gets knocked, the Newcastle's handling the revive, and if we need a shield, the Newcastle can handle it.
And it enables Gibby to play, more aggressive and play his best way. But at the same time, if needed, he can also do the other. He can also play the other way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. He covers all my weaknesses, like the opposite of Bangalore.
I think with him as well, you also have complete uptime of like cover. By the time that his wall goes down, your bubble's back up, and vice versa. It's really nice.
Yeah, that's true. I think you might need a baby bubble for that, or maybe a gold helmet or something. But like you can really have constant walls without any cheating or anything. You can actually do that in a game. That's crazy. I'd say the other 2 legends that come to mind are a Pathfinder. Pathfinder's really good. Or a Horizon. And that's because Gibby has 0 mobility whatsoever. So with a Horizon, you can take a rooftop and then maybe a Newcastle can ultimate up towards you and all 3 of you are together. Newcastle, if we've already established that that's my first teammate that I'd pick, Newcastle can get to a Gibby anywhere a Gibby can go. So that's great. Horizon can get that Gibby anywhere he needs to go, and it's a really nice little dynamic. The ultimate, Horizon ultimate, you can work well with a Gibby bubble in it. And then Pathfinder also comes to mind because he can let the whole team rotate to POIs while also scanning for enemies in the area. Pathfinder really kind of covers that gap. I think Gibby, Newcastle, Pathfinder is probably the best team that you can run. And then maybe depending on the map, or depending on if you don't like rotating all the way across the map, then a Horizon would be better for team fights.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, interesting question, or like little question. Well, who's your most hated legend in the game?
Horizon.
Okay, good. Yep, same. It's same. I hate Horizon.
If, yeah, every time I'm on Twitter, if I see an anti-Horizon post, I'm retweeting it. Like
Yo,
that legend made me want to get a job. That legend made me want to go to college.
literally.
Everything about her. Oh my, I don't want to get too much into it because I'll start getting mad.
Yeah.
But as long as, I mean, if she's on my team, then hey, it's okay. But
Yeah.
if I have to fight a Horizon, I just give up. Like I can't beat it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm literally the same. I hate her so much. It's funny because every single like kill grinder, every person I talk to says the same thing. Everybody hates her. Looking back at Gibby over time, couple of questions. When do you think he was at his strongest? At like what point in Apex's history?
At his strongest, I'd say either right now, today, or season 4 is when he had all of his buffs and no nerfs. Fast healing in the bubble was pretty huge, but I think low-key popping 50 health or 50 shields with 1 cell is probably better than fast heals. He had the fast res in season 4 from season 3, I think. I don't remember. It was season 4. He just had all these buffs, and he had never been nerfed. Until season 5, he only got buff, including fortified and all these things that made him good, the fast res and the fast heals. So right around there, if you ran into a Gibby, it was a little raid boss. Like you couldn't kill him in a fair fight. But right now, if you like Mastiffs, if you like shotguns in general, I think right now he might rival what he used to be.
Yeah, no, I get that. Okay, also looking back at Gibby, what are some of like the biggest glitches or bugs or anything that he's had, or some of the fun ones, if you can think of any?
Oh, you used to stack. You could stack caustic traps on his
love
arm
that one.
shield.
Yeah.
I did that a few times. I have some good screenshots of that.
You could put octane jump pads on it as well, and you could just bounce around everywhere.
Oh yeah. True. That is definitely a thing. I'm just thinking back on these glitches and stuff, and I think it was all like not legend specific. The ones I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any other Gibby ones either, really, to be honest. Yeah.
Stacking caustic traps on an arm shield, 12 deep or maybe 6 deep in game, and just using it like a jousting lance was so good. You could just have your teammate open a door and put the 6 traps inside a room and just aim down your sights and watch. That was good times.
Actually amazing. Okay, well, heirloom wise, what do you think of Gibby's heirloom? And if you had to rate it on a tier list, where would you put it?
Okay. No, me personally, I'm not really a cosmetic guy. I rate things more on their performance, but it is pretty sick. I'll give you that. So I'd say
Let's go, they hit a shot.
the quick and easy tier list, the Chet You Betcha easy tier list here is Wraith's Kunai is the best. It's the first one, and it started it all, and it made people excited to buy packs, and it got a lot of hype into the game, and it looks cool. That's number 1. Revenants and Caustics, two-handed, big baller, Scythe and Great Hammer. Those are pretty cool. Those are probably like A tier. Gibby's pretty raw, B tier. Everything else doesn't really interest me, so below that. But it's pretty high up there. I really like it.
Yeah, that's fair. Actually, okay, so going back to like when you started playing, what got you into, I guess, Apex, and then what got you into playing Gibby once you started playing Apex?
Oh, okay. This might be a long-winded one. Okay, I'm ready. The reason I was into Apex, real life friends. Real life friends were watching Dr. Lupo, and they're like, he's playing some crazy new battle royale game. You gotta try it. And I was like, I'm a Call of Duty gamer, man. I already play Blackout. Why would I play some free game? And then I tried it, and I won my first game. I clutched up a 1v2 to win my first game, and I was hooked. I was like, wow. I like this free game more than a game that I paid money for. Okay. And then my second game ever, I dropped a 20 bomb on Wraith with a R301 and a wingman back in the day. I dropped a 20 bomb, and none of my other friends, none of my real life friends could drop a 20 bomb. So I was like, wow, I'm king of the castle around here. Okay. It really boosted my ego, boosted my confidence through the roof. And I stayed on Wraith for a long time, but then in season 1, there was a challenge where you had to win 50 games on 7 different legends to get a badge. And I tried to do that. And my logic was, if anybody's good enough to win 350 games in a season, they're probably good enough to dedicate themselves to one main and try to like be the number one of that legend or something. Like 350 wins on Octane, for example, is a big deal. So I went for that challenge because I didn't think anybody else was going to do it. So I wear that badge a lot because I'm proud of that. But the last legend that I decided to do in that challenge in season 1 was Gibby. And I won those 50 games so easily. Like, my playstyle, I realized, was really slow. I like to just aim down my sights. I don't like to take extra damage. It's just really, just really calm and easy to play him. And I was like, wow, this Gibby character is really good, but literally nobody plays him. And then the week after I got those 50 wins on Gibby, and I was like, wow, this is a really good legend, they buffed him and gave him like 15% fortified, and I don't remember what else they gave him, but they buffed him crazy. And the meta weapons in season 2 were alternator and longbow, and Gibby's arm shield beat both. He could absorb 2 longbow shots, and he could absorb like 6 alternator disruptor round shots before you break the arm shield. So if you played Gibby, you just win every fight. And I kind of got hooked on that feeling of winning every time I play. It's a pretty nice feeling, in my mind at least. So yeah, Gibby was better than everybody else at beating longbow and alternator. And I had the right kind of mentality to just aim down my sights and walk towards people, nice and slow. So Gibby is for me.
What about yourself when it comes to Apex and I guess even content as well? I mean, I know you've done a lot of silly and crazy challenges over time. You've gone from bronze to pred with only the first weapon that you found every game and stuff like that. I saw that. That was insane. Do you have any other plans for like content you're gonna make around Apex, or do you plan to keep kill grinding? What are your plans with Apex?
Right now I'm soloing to pred again with no crazy restrictions or anything. I think that soloing in the current support meta is crazy enough as it is. 1v3ing against res legends is a challenge. So I'm doing that in the short term. The long term, just continue being #1 Gibby, continuing to adapt to the new metas. I don't want to be seen as an old dog that can't learn new tricks. I want to be viable and adaptable, if that's the right word. I want to have adaptability. I want to be that guy that never gets washed. And for projects like video making, we'll see when we get there.
Yeah,
I don't
honestly,
have anything
that's
planned
fair.
right now.
No, honestly, I hope that. Okay, last question then, very last question. If you weren't a Gibby main, who would you main?
Ooh, Caustic.
Oh,
In
I'm the same!
season 3.
I'm the only
Yeah,
you're the
yeah.
only person that's ever said that. I love Caustic.
Okay. In season 3, I played Caustic and I felt so strong. In season 3, Gibby was almost at his peak. I felt so good on Caustic. The only thing that stopped me from being a Caustic monster is that in that season, the gas slowed down and blinded your teammates too. So with poor positioning, the Caustic could see through everything and be fine, but you'd be hurting your teammates more. And I didn't want to be a liability for the team. And I feel like with a Gibby bubble, it's almost always beneficial to the team. So I took the high road, the non-selfish route.
That's actually crazy. You're the only person I've ever had say Caustic before. I love Caustic. He's one of my favorite legends to play. He's so good. Actually, let me know in the comments below. Do you guys like Caustic? What's your second main if you guys have one? And finally, here are his controller settings. He plays 3-3, which is a little weird, and basically has all his other settings on default. I asked him why, and basically he said, if it ain't broke, why fix? And honestly, that's fair and makes a lot of sense. Thank you guys again for watching. Make sure you follow Chet on all his socials, which are right here and in the pinned comment below. He's an absolutely amazing guy, awesome streamer, does a lot of crazy, amazing challenges, and keep being awesome.